Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for coming today. I appreciate it. Um, we're at the very end of LlewellynCon, which has just been so overwhelmingly amazing. So many great presenters, and I'm honored to take part of this. Um, Today is also Scott Cunningham's birthday. He would have been 67 today. And I know many people of my generation and just many people in general. I was a Cunningham Ravenwolf kid. Their work has been instrumental in my path, in my early years, and still work that I reference. So I just wanted to take a moment to honor Scott and the work that he's done. For those of you who are unfamiliar with me, my name is Matt Auryn. I wrote two books with Llewellyn. I wrote Psychic Witch, and I wrote Mastering Magic, which was just recently released. So today we're going to be talking about a subject that is very dear to my heart and instrumental to a lot of the work that I write about and I talk about. We are going to be talking about mastering your magic with psychic skills, um, which is kind of a combination of my two book titles. So, what do I mean by mastering? So, that is a very loaded word, and I wanted to unpack that first. So, first thing we should recognize is that mastering is a verb. It is an action. It's something that you do in the process. So, mastering in this context refers to an individual's pursuit and development of their personal approach to magic. This can involve various techniques and traditions such as meditation, visualization, invocation, divination, spell work, and more. The ultimate aim is to enhance personal growth, self understanding, and to affect change in oneself or the world around us. Mastering doesn't necessarily mean it doesn't mean you're all powerful or infallible. It doesn't mean that you've are an adept in everything there is to learn and experience and have no more growth or learning. But it's about developing a deep understanding and proficiency in your personal practice, which in turn supports your overall spiritual growth and self transformation as you connect to magic in deeper and stronger ways. So, mastering, like I said, it's not being like, Dumbledore or something like that, where you're just like this master of magic, but rather it's a process, a continual process. And the main goal is to have a magical practice that works for you, that is efficient, that has results, and that feeds you spiritually. So, the main idea that we're going to be tackling is how psychic ability and psychism enhances magic and why it's beneficial for magic. So psychic ability is psychic ability and magical ability are two sides of the same coin. And I say this a lot. I wrote that in my book, that exact phrase. And this is because it's tapping into the same energetic forces, the same subtle energies, I would say, but it's all kind of interwoven together. And while there are subtle differences between the two, they share a fundamental principle and are interconnected phenomena. The connection between psychic ability and magical ability lies in their shared understanding of an underlying energetic fabric that permeates the universe. Both psychics and witches are aware of the existence of this subtle energy. Um, and forces, and we harness and direct it for specific purposes. Psychics often use our abilities to perceive and communicate with these energies, while witches actively manipulate and channel this out. So, psychic is the reception and the perceiving of energy, whereas magic is the direction and projection of energy. So, it's really all about input, output, how you're working with the same energy. So, obviously, they work in tandem, they work hand in hand. Excuse me one moment. All right. So, how can it benefit your magic? So, with psychic ability, um, you have a better opportunity to manipulate the energies that you're working with in a spell directly. So this also allows you to perceive the energy that is working in your spell and in your ritual area. You can see if the energy is properly aligned. You can see if a circle has been cast properly, if it's been cleansed, and all of this perception, this direct perception of the energy directly affects um, how you're casting a spell because you have a better you're not working blindly, so to speak. So as you tune into your own psychic abilities, as you develop those muscles, you can tell when something feels off, whether that's, through clairtangency, just like not feeling the energy physically, whether it's if you're more clairvoyant oriented, not seeing the circle cast. For me, I hear a high pitch ringing if I know a circle has been cast properly. So there's these different kind of like cues and perception based things that let you know that the spell is working effectively, that you're more aware of what you're working with directly. Another way that psychic ability is beneficial for magic is spiritual communication. So, mediumship relies on all the psychic faculties, and anyone who engages in mediumship knows that. And that's because the senses and the communication of spirit are the clair senses. We are spirits before we incarnate, we are spirits while we're incarnated, and we're spirits after we incarnate. And so those psychic senses are how we operate. Though while we're incarnated, our physical senses kind of tend to override our psychic perception. We're a little bit kind of locked into this perception. But everyone has psychic ability, everyone can develop it and become stronger. So when you can directly engage with the spirits that you're calling upon, be they deity or ancestors or what have you, you have a stronger likelihood of communicating your request and also being sure that you are heard by them. And this ties into animism. We had a fantastic presentation by Nathan Hall. His amazing book, I believe it's called Path of the Moonlit Hedge. It's fantastic. Go read it. But with animism, you're using the same spiritual communication. When you can directly communicate with an herb or a stone or a tool and align with them and have them partner with you in your magic, you boost that magic. You aren't just using it as an ingredient, but you're partnering with them. And my personal definition of witchcraft, what makes witchcraft different from other forms of magic, is this idea of connection. It's all about connecting with things, connecting with ourselves, connecting with others, connecting with spirits, connecting with land and the nature. And it's about this sort of partnership. And it's all about kind of stumbling upon that mystery with a big M, that we're all interconnected and we're all one. And Nathan brilliantly addressed this as well. So if you have not seen his talk, go find it on the YouTube replays. So psychic defense and counteraction. So this may seem a little less rare, but your psychic abilities can let you know when other people are interfering with your spell work and your manifestation. And this isn't always direct psychic attacks or direct spell work against you, though it can be. But it's also the evil eye. It's people's jealousy or their negative views of you, or just kind of ill wishing on you. And this can also come in the form of, which I think a lot of witches have experienced, prayer. When someone prays for you with a negative intent that's wrapped around sort of like a self-righteousness, that kind of like, oh, I'll be praying for you type thing, that is a form of evil eye. That is a form of trying to get you off of your path and your goals and into what they think is correct for you. And obviously, that's wrapped around judgment, which is where that evil eye comes in. So, with the awakening of psychic abilities, you're more tapped into when something goes wrong, whether that's through, your spiritual allies talking to you, and warning you. Or in Psychic Witch, I have the whole alarm system set up, the psychic alarm system, to let you know when something's coming for you. So those psychic skills can help you to know when something's coming, and then to take countermeasures to ensure that it's proactive. And this is also where the idea of the witch's pyramid of to be silent comes in. And it's a lot more than just never talking about magic or never talking about your spells. But the way that I was trained is that to be silent is also an internal silence, right? It's sort of like being still. It's letting go of the spell even for yourself, so that it can manifest, so that you're not directly pulling it back to you and hindering that manifestation. And when you go around talking about your spells that have yet to manifest, you can get a lot of people taking their energy and pulling it, even if it's things that are just as simple as just sort of doubt. Just sort of like, oh yeah, I doubt that Mary Joe is going to get the result she wants from that spell or whatever. So silence is definitely necessary, particularly with yourself. Psychic ability also lets you have clarity of will. So, through reverse engineering of the psychic senses, you can project those senses onto your spell. And this will help you not only to be clear with your will, but it also allows you to program that information into your magic. So, what I mean by that, let me take a sip of water, sorry, is when you're engaging in the spell, making it a sensory experience. So the go-to I usually use to illustrate this is like a love spell. So if you're doing a love spell to bring love into your life, um, you would light the candle. You might, imagine what love feels like. You might imagine what love smells like what senses. What sense and senses make you think of love? I might visualize roses, something that is traditionally associated with love, popping out of the candles, essentially using all of those senses to imbue the spell with that energy so that it's programmed to be more specific and has more information of what your will is that you're trying to manifest. So, another one is very obvious, which is enhanced divination. So when you have awoken your psychic abilities and you utilize your psychic abilities, your divination levels up big time. You get information that isn't just sort of that left brain analytical, like this is what that means, which is important, as a foundation. But you also get all of that psychic, all that intuitive information that you wouldn't. Um, Necessarily get in divination. And I'm a big proponent of spell checking your magic and your spells. And I share that in my second book, Mastering Magic, which is essentially, doing divination, like say doing a tarot reading on what your spell goal is before you cast it, and that way you can kind of get advice on, are you going about this the best way possible? Should you wait a little bit? Are there factors that you are missing? And so all of that guidance that you gained through divination is going to enhance the desired results and the palpable outcome to be more in alignment with what your desire is when you're casting. Direct connection to the inner planes. So if anyone is familiar with older occultism, particularly, Victorian and post-Victorian times, like the writings of Leadbeater or Dion Fortune or even Gareth Knight or W.E. Butler, they often refer to the inner planes. And the inner planes happen to be it's another term trying to describe our energetic reality that permeates everything. So we often, let me try to pull up an illustration. We often try to sort of layer it to have a map that helps us sort of understand what the levels of these inner planes are. I can't find it, but it's in my book. But essentially, it's these layers of reality that interweave through each other, and they're referred to as the inner plane because we go inward to directly work with them. And through psychic development and a psychic practice, particularly establishing an inner temple, like I do in Mastering Magic, I show you how to do that. You can not only seek guidance directly on the level that the spirit is operating on, your spirit allies, your spirit guides, but you can also completely perform operations and magic completely inside of your head. Once you're in the alpha brainwave state, you've gone inward to the inner planes. You can absolutely do ritual and spell casting just with your mind alone. Working with psychic ability also allows you to have stronger thought forms. So, through using those kind of psychic muscles, we can deliberately feed and nourish thought forms, egregores, servitors, all the various things under the umbrella of thought form, so that we can amplify them and make them stronger by directly feeding them energy and also kind of sensing where they're at. This also ties into the idea of energetic alignment. So, psychic ability allows you to enhance your connection with your energetic system by being able to directly perceive your own energy pathways and centers. You can know when you're in alignment. For magic, and know that you are in the state where you can cast with palpable results and powerful results. Because, getting into that sort of immersive um, mindset and energy set is so crucial for magic. It's why in a lot of traditional training or a lot of like traditional witchcraft practices and rituals, there's a strong emphasis at the beginning of kind of um, getting your crap together, so to speak, and aligning. Even if it's as simple as like grounding and centering. But for me, it's a little bit more than that. It's about getting my three souls into alignment: my higher self, my lower self, my middle self, so that we're all speaking the same will and there's no argument amongst ourselves. And this, not to go on to a tangent, but this is Carl Jung's whole alchemical idea of individualization, individuation. He came up with that term because he believed that most people were not individuals. He believed that most people were dividuals, that they were divided amongst themselves. So the goal is to recraft the self with intent, to be an individual, a self-made person with focus and clarity. So, in a similar vein, working with psychic ability keeps those energy channels that we use for magic open. It keeps them open and running. And think of it sort of like a car. If you have a car that's sort of just sitting in your driveway that you haven't driven for years, there's a good chance when you try to start it up, it's not going to start up or there's going to be issues. So even if we're not constantly actively casting magic every day, by taking a moment to tune into our psychic senses, to use those psychic senses, we have those pathways still working. So when we go to approach our magical practice, we're already lubed up and ready to go, and not, in need of an oil change, or, kind of divided amongst ourselves. We can also do immediate magic. And I have a lot of this at the end of my first book, Psychic Witch, which is this idea of using creative visualization backed with willpower and energy to create instantaneous effects. An example that I give is, I share a story of when I worked in Salem in a shop, and during October, it's just kind of crazy chaos. And we had a whole group of people come in, a single family, mostly of teenage boys. And they were coming in and they were like straight up saying how they weren't going to buy anything, that like they just wanted to look around. But we were just about to close, like 1 minute. So about like 10 minutes into it, we're all exhausted. And they're very clear. They just want to go through and make fun of things and mock things because, they're just kind of like muggle tourists. We needed them out. So I used the creative visualization, the instant magic backed with willpower, to get them to leave. And I'm very big, if you've read my books, I'm very big on utilizing pop culture, particularly fantasy, into magic or to explain magical concepts. So for this one, I use the cleaners in Labyrinth. When they're going down the thing, I just sort of imagined that, and they all just sort of moved out. Another thing that I taught for the women that worked in the shop that had to go to their car super late at night alone, if we couldn't walk with them, is to sort of have that visualization of a dog barking, like vicious dogs barking around them, just so that this forms a do not approach me, do not come, do not even think about coming near. And what ties creative visualization, what makes it more than just sort of imagining something, is that focused energy that you develop with psychic ability. And finally, it also helps you to approach the mystery. So psychic ability enables you to embrace the wisdom of witchcraft's mysteries, facilitating your journey towards mastering your magic. So what I mean by this is that in a lot of Western witchcraft and Western occultism, there's something referred to as the mysteries with the capital M. And these are things that you experience, profound truths that you experience through your practice of magic. And they're called mysteries because you can't quite put them into words. You can't quite explain it. So the way that I often try to explain this is it's sort of like having a mushroom trip, right? So it's sort of like if you've had it, you know what the experience is like, and you can sort of have an idea of someone else when they're talking about their mushroom trip. If you've never done mushrooms and someone's talking about their mushroom trip, you'll have an idea of what you think that trip is, but it's not going to be the same as knowing that. And I'm not advocating or against the idea of hallucinogens. It just tends to be a very good metaphor example, just show that there's something in the experience that people who have experienced something like that can understand when talking about it, as opposed to someone who hasn't had that experience. That. So through the awakening of psychic abilities and having a psychic um, practice, you essentially become open to those mysteries through working with magic, because a lot of them come through the psychic faculty, whether that's through dreams or through clairvoyance, or what New Agers might call downloads, that kind of claircognizance of just knowing and experiencing. See where we are on time. Perfect. So I do want to get to questions related to this talk. But first of all, you can find me at Matt Auryn on all social media, spelled Matauryn. No exceptions, no periods, no underscore, no numbers. I know how to spell my name, so no misspellings. I will never contact you for a reading or a service. If someone does, it's a scammer impersonating me or anyone else. Anyone legit is not going to be, you know, uh, r- showing up in your inbox trying to talk you into a reading or a service that you didn't ask for. If you would like to get signed copies of my books, you can do that at auryn.net/sign. Unfortunately, right now I can only mail to the US just because we've had some issues with international mailing. But if you want it personalized and signed, that's the place to go. Also, Llewellyn, this is the last day. Llewellyn.com, you can save 35% on any books, whether it's mine or any of our other fantastic authors, by putting in the code LLCon23. And last but not least, my books are available anywhere Llewellyn books are sold. Please support your local shops when and if possible. But it's also available at like Barnes and Nobles, Amazon, things like that. If you're a more auditory person, you can get these two books on as audiobooks on audible.com. And if you go to auryn.net, go to the download section, I have PDF uh, printouts that essentially, because some things just can't be related through audio. So thank you so much. I'm going to go through the chat now and see what sort of questions we might have. Oh, and it was mentioned Temple Fest. So if you are in New England, I will be presenting at Temple Fest. Storm Fairy Wolf will be with me. He'll be presenting more than I am. I'm only doing one. But that's put on by the Temple of Witchcraft in New Hampshire. Definitely worth checking out. Okay, let's see what questions we have. So for the Q&A, so I got a question, would I be willing to do a Q&A for Witchy Book Club? How can I contact you? Yes, I would be more than happy to. Get a hold of Marcus at Llewellyn. So just contact Llewellyn. Marcus will get a hold of me with information. I've become a little harder to get a hold of directly just because of some scary personal experiences I've had with being open to the general public. So yeah, publicity at llewellyn.com. So just shoot them an email, you know, and I'd be more than happy to set that up with you. Let's see if we have any more questions. Could we make this biannual? That would be amazing, but that's so much work for Llewellyn. Could I speak about my third book at all? Yes and no. So I'll tell you about 3.5. So I had the honor to co-write Pisces Witch with Ivo Dominguez Jr., who's like one of my personal witchy heroes. So with the Sun Sign series that he's doing with people, I did Pisces Witch. We're at the end of the Zodiac, so we'll be the last one that's up for pre-order. But I'm very excited about that. My other project that I'm working about, my own full-length third book, I'm not discussing publicly just because it's those same principles of, you know, to be silent, because this is a manifestation that I'm creating. So mum's the word until it's time to discuss it publicly. So I don't really see any more questions. Perfect. Well, it looks like we're actually at the 30-minute mark anyways. Oh, okay, question. I have mobility issues, disability. Do you have any recommendations for circle casting that would be easier on me, or a way I could alter the one in your first book? I have both books. Getting up and turning around some days are a lot harder to do than the other. Yes. So you said you have both of my books. So in Mastering Magic, I have a technique for spell casting where you literally don't even have to move your body at all. It just utilizes a ring that you dedicate uh, to spell cast through circle casting in general. You know, I recommend an Ouroboros ring just because, you know, the symbolism there of the Ouroboros and the magical circle, but it can be any sort of ring. And you can essentially just follow that and get a palpable, strong, energetic, magical circle around you without having to physically get up and move around. And that's another very crucial thing about mastering your magic, and something that I address in Mastering Magic with ADHD or aphantasia. I try to give some tips for that, but your magic needs to work for you, and that's going to be unique to you. And no one is cookie cutter, so magic shouldn't be cookie cutter either. As long as you understand the principles, have a practice that works for you, you're on the right path. So thank you, everyone else, for attending. I'm truly honored that you took the time to come check out this presentation. And thank you, Llewellyn, for having me. And I hope you have a fantastic summer.